So we've now lifted a Coolboy out of the transport container. This particular machine is a Coolboy 250, but the features and method of operation are identical whichever model you're using, the 250 or the 375. First thing to note is that the machine itself is in a steel trolley or cradle, this item here. This has got wheels on the back, so it is possible to wheel this short distances. Just grab the handle at the top, tilt it, and you can wheel it around. And this cradle is the best place to store the machine when you're not using it. Obviously you can put it back into the transport container if you wish, but if it's in this cradle, the machine's upright, which is the best position for it to be in to resist weather. And please don't leave the machine lying down flat on its back, because water will tend to find its way inside the machine. So that's the transport and storage cradle. We're just now going to attach this to our overhead crane. Now, a lot of customers will operate Coolboys with forklifts and telehandlers, and we'll show you the attachment for that later on in a different video. But once you're ready to lift the machine up, just take it up into the air, just a couple of feet off the ground, and at that stage you then can remove the cradle. So the cradle quite easily is removed by rotating the two cam locks at the back. All that does, if I just show you quickly inside, it moves. Do that again please, Neil. It just moves those two cams that lock it onto the plate. So remove those, take the weight of the cradle and lift it off the top of the machine. Okay, fairly straightforward. So now the machine's suspended. You can see the back plate of the machine, which is the suction plate. All the Coolboys are identical. The plate is divided into 4 zones. You've got 2 zones on each circuit, and the Coolboy 375 simply differs by having a bigger suction plate divided into 4 larger areas. Looking at the features of the machine itself, like all of our vacuum lifters, it is battery operated. Inside the cabinet you'll see the battery, the vacuum pump, the battery charger and various other components. That can stay closed, there's no reason for you to go inside there. When this machine arrives on site, it will be charged already, but once you start using it at the end of a working shift, you need to put this back on charge. And the charging connector is there, just needs to plug into a 110 volt supply. When that's plugged in, there's going to be no outwardly visible indication that it's been on charge, but if you wanted to check it, you could go back inside the cabinet and look at the battery charger. There's a small LED here. When this is connected to a live supply, that will illuminate, and if the battery's flat it will be red, and as it charges it will go through amber to eventually green. From a fully depleted battery, this needs around 6 to 8 hours to charge, so it's ideal to put it on charge overnight. And don't worry, you can't overcharge the machine, so you can leave it on while you're not working with it, even over the weekend if necessary. So that's the main features of the battery charging. On the front of the machine, when this is switched on, this voltmeter will indicate the level of the battery. Now, a Coolboy is a 12 volt machine, so when it's switched on, the needle will only ever hang around 12 to 12.5 volts. It will never go over 13 volts, and it will certainly never go up to the full range of the meter there. So don't expect it to do that. Some other features, you've got a rotation and a tilt mechanism. We'll show you when we attach to the panel. Underneath the machine you've got the main power switch, which again we'll show you shortly, and you've got the vacuum operating slider, and pretty much that's it. So just to tilt the machine, I'll show you that. We can tilt it, pushing the lever down, the machine will rotate like that. So you can see on the bottom here, the main power switch and the vacuum control mechanism. Simply you slide that together to achieve suction, and you pull and separate to release suction. Okay, so we're going to switch the machine on. It's going to go through a process. It'll start beeping for a few seconds, and I'll probably stop talking. So every time you switch the machine on, the main power on, it will go through that cycle. And for that reason, you don't want to be switching that on and off during panel lifts. So switch it on for the beginning of the working session, and only at the end of the session, switch it off and then put it on charge. But now the machine's switched on, you can see that the voltmeter's registering now, and this is showing around about 12, just over 12.5 volts, and that's typical for a fully charged machine. You'll have heard the warning indicator, and you'll have seen the red light, which is now changed to a green light, and that's showing that the machine is now ready to use. A couple of other things at the top of the machine, you've got two displays here. That's not something you really need to worry about, but they're the vacuum control switches, and they'll give you an indication of the vacuum level, as will these vacuum gauges here. So just before we put the machine on the panel, you saw us tilt it earlier. Pushing the lever down tilts. The other feature is that you can push the lever the other way and rotate the pad. It will rotate 360 degrees, and it locks every 90 degrees. Okay, and you obviously can tilt and rotate at the same time. Okay, so essentially the features of the Cool Boy. We're going to put this onto a panel. We're probably going to lift it as a vertical panel initially, and then we'll show you a horizontal panel lift. Just another quick couple of points about all vacuum lifters. The seals themselves are interchangeable. There are spare seals with the machine, but if you look after these seals, there's no real need to change them, as long as you don't have any accidents with them, you don't catch the seals on any sharp objects. The main thing about looking after the seals is to ensure that this machine does not touch any surface apart from the panel surface, and also when you're not using the machine, don't leave it resting on these suction pad seals. If you do, they get over-compressed and they won't have enough flex or durability the following day. So when you're not using it, put it back in its carriage and make sure those seals are protected. And the final thing is that all of our vacuum lifters can be used on composite panels in wet conditions. Just use common sense and make sure you wipe the excess of the moisture away from where this, the suction pad is going to locate. There are some methods I'll show you later to drain water from the system at the end of the working day, but we'll cover that later. So I'm going to stop this video, we're going to move the machine across to a panel, and we're going to do a short panel lift.